A week before Christmas. I froze in the hallway when I overheard my own mother laughing about their plan. Her voice was bright, carefree, almost playful as she explained it to someone on the phone. I wouldn't actually be a guest this year. I wouldn't sit at the table or sip wine or unwrap gifts. I'd be stationed upstairs, the unpaid babysitter for 9 restless, oversugared kids. My chest tightened, a familiar ache rising up, but instead of confronting her, I smiled to myself. If they really thought I'd play servant again, they had no idea what was about to happen. On December 24th, when Mom called and asked, "Where are you?" I laughed, not bitterly, just calmly, and told her not to wait for me. Not for me, and definitely not for the catering. What she didn't know yet was that their carefully planned, picture-perfect Christmas was already unraveling. My name is Madison. I'm 28, and if you looked at my life from the outside, you'd probably think I had everything sorted out. I work as a data analyst at a solid tech company. I have my own apartment near the city, enough money to eat out when I want, and enough left over for small indulgences that make long weeks feel manageable. At work, people describe me as dependable, put together. The one who has her act together. They don't see the part of my life that twists my stomach into knots every weekend, the part that begins and ends with my family. I live just 30 minutes from my parents' house. Close enough that dropping by is easy. Too close to pretend I'm unavailable. And for a long time, I didn't want to make excuses. I told myself I loved my parents. Or at least I loved them the uncomplicated way children are supposed to. But as I got older, that love took on layers: guilt, obligation, resentment that made it harder to recognize. Then there's my sister, Lavra. She's 34, 6 years older than me. Married to her high school sweetheart, Mark. They have 2 kids, Ethan 9 and Chloe 7. Bright, energetic, endlessly curious. They call me Aunt Maddie and throw themselves into my arms every time they see me. That part still melts me every single time. What comes after is what's worn me down. Almost every Saturday morning around 9, there's a knock on my apartment door. Sometimes I'm still in pajamas. Sometimes I've barely poured coffee. Sometimes I'm not even fully awake yet. It doesn't matter. It's always the same scene. Lavra stands there with her cheerful, effortless smile. Ethan and Chloe bounce beside her, backpacks slung on their shoulders like they're heading to camp. "Hey, Mads!" The kids are so excited to spend the day with their favorite aunt. She kisses them both, waves, and before I can protest, before I can even process, it's done. She's gone. Off to brunch, or a movie, or a spa day with Mark. 12 hours later, sometimes close to 10 at night, she returns glowing and rested. Meanwhile, I'm standing in a living room scattered with Legos, empty pizza boxes, and 2 overtired kids arguing over the remote. At first, I told myself it was fine. They're family. This is what family does. We help, we show up. And I genuinely love those kids. But after the 10th Saturday, then the 20th, love began to feel a lot like expectation, and expectation began to feel like exploitation. 3 months ago, I finally cracked. It was a Sunday morning. The kids had just left, and I sat at my kitchen table staring at a breakfast I couldn't bring myself to eat. My eyes burned from exhaustion. My head rang with silence. I called Lavra. "Hey, can we talk about the Saturdays?" The pause on the line was long enough to make me question myself. Then her voice came back sharp, coated in practiced hurt. "Wow, Madison. I can't believe you'd even bring this up. That's selfish." She went on about how hard she and Mark worked, how little time they had together, how I didn't have kids, didn't have a husband. What else are you really doing on a Saturday anyway? I tried to explain, my voice shaking. I wanted weekends, friends, dates, rest, but she wasn't listening. "They adore you," she said. "You're basically their second mom. Why would you deny them that?" When I hung up, my hands were shaking with anger, with shame. Somehow, asking for balance had turned me into the villain. 2 weeks later, I tried again. Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Roast chicken, herbs, familiar smells that once meant comfort. I told myself maybe this time I'd be heard. My dad didn't even look up. Family helps family. Mom gave me that disappointed look, the one that made me feel 16 again. You're single, Madison. Lavra has real responsibilities. And honestly, this is great preparation for when you have kids of your own. Lavra smiled. You can date other nights. It's not that complicated, Dad nodded. Your sister's right. Something inside me twisted so painfully I thought I might snap. Instead, I smiled. Ate my dinner. Played the good daughter, driving home in the rain. I remembered being 16, stuck babysitting while the adults celebrated. That was the first time I realized how invisible I was, 16 years later. Nothing had changed. So when December arrived, smelling of pine and cinnamon, I wasn't excited. I was bracing myself. And when Mom called about Christmas, the guest list, the 25 people. The catering she wanted me to pay for, the knot in my chest tightened exactly as expected. I agreed. Of course I did. Until the catering company called. Until I tried to reach my family. Until I walked into my parents' house and heard my mother laughing about sticking me upstairs with 9 kids while the adults enjoyed Christmas downstairs. That was the moment everything clicked. I canceled the catering. I took the financial hit without flinching. I remembered Jessica's invitation. And for the first time, I chose myself. Colorado was cold and quiet and kind. The cabin smelled of wood smoke and cocoa. For once, Christmas felt peaceful, like something meant for me too. It lasted until my phone buzzed on Christmas Eve. Madison, where are you? I told the truth. All of it. I told her I heard her. I told her I wasn't coming. I told her I'd canceled the food. The fallout was loud, angry, predictable. But when Lavra accused me of being selfish, I laughed sharp, finally honest. I'm done being your free babysitter and backup wallet. I ended the call. Turned my phone off. On Christmas morning, I turned it back on. 43 missed calls. 27 unread texts. The first from Mom read, "Call me back immediately." Where are you? This is unacceptable. Then nastier ones. You are cruel and selfish. You've ruined Christmas for everyone. Laura's messages were venomous. I can't believe you did this to us. We had to scramble at the last minute. We ate garbage food. The kids were miserable. Mark chimed in. Your sister's crying. The kids are asking why there's no Christmas dinner. Dad's words cut deepest. We spent Christmas in chaos. The kids ran wild. The house was a mess. And the guests left early. This is all your fault. I read them all, sitting in a cabin filled with laughter. The smell of cinnamon rolls, the sound of snow falling outside. And instead of guilt, I started laughing Becky's while my family was chasing 9 screaming kids and scourging for leftovers. I was sipping cocoa by fire with people who actually wanted me around. For the first time in my life, he wasn't the servant in my own family story. But I knew it wasn't over, because if there was one thing my prince and Lavra couldn't stand, it was losing control. And I had just shattered their grip on me in the most public, humiliating way possible. 4 days later, December 29th, the knock on my apartment door shook the walls. Not polite, not tentative, angry, insistent. I froze with my coffee mug halfway to my lips. Through the peephole, I saw exactly what I expected. Mom, Dad, and Laura standing in the hallway, their face tight with fury. I opened the door slowly. Hi, don't you hi us? Mom snapped, sweeping past me like she owneth the place. Dad and Lavra followed, shutting the door behind them. My small apartment suddenly felt claustrophobic as falling across the walls as the light outside dulled. Dad's voice was clipped. We need to talk. Okay, I said evenly, setting my coffee down on the counter. Let's talk. Mom turned to face me, her eyes red-rimmed, her voice trembling with anger. How could you do this to us, Madison? 25 people sat down expecting a Christmas dinner and we had nothing. Nothing, Dad added. The guests were asking where the food was. We had to tell them there was a mix-up with the catering. We looked like fools. Laura stepped closer, her cheeks flushed with rage. Rick's family thinks we were completely disorganized now. His mother kept asking why we didn't have backup plans. I was mortified. And the children threw up her hands. 9 screaming kids running wild, destroying the house. It was chaos. I let out a small laugh, bitter and sharp. Gee, that sounds terrible, having to actually watch your own children during a holiday. I can't imagine how exhausting that must have been. Don't be smart with us, young lady. Dad barked. You know exactly what you did? Yeah, I said, straightening my spine. I do know what I did. I chose not to be your unpaid babysitter and your personal caterer. One chose myself. You're our daughter. Mom cried, tears spilling. No. You're supposed to help family. I stared at her, my heart pounding so hard he could feel it in my fingertips. Help family. But what you wanted wasn't help. You wanted me to pay for your own dinner, and then spend the entire holiday locked upstairs with 10 kids, while you partied downstairs. That's not helping. That's being used. Laura's voice cracked like a whip. You're so selfish. We work hard all week. We deserve to relax on holidays. And I didn't work hard. I shot back. I don't deserve to relax. What makes your time worth more than mine? You don't have a children, she screamed. You don't understand how hard it is. I felt my hands clench around the scarf draped on me chair, the red scarf from my grandmother. It grounded me, reminded me of her voice. Don't let anyone turn you into their shadow. You're right, I said softly but firmly. I don't have a children, which means Christmas isn't about me raising yours. It's supposed to be about family spending time together, but you never wanted me there as family. You wanted me there as labor. Mom's tears turned cold. Her voice dropped sharp as glass. Because of you, we'll never be able to show our faces to those relatives again. Everyone thinks we were terrible hosts. Aunt Carol said she'll never come back for Christmas. Uncle Mike's family left early. Rick's brother asked if our family always has such disasters. Do you understand what you've done to us? I looked at all three of them, their eyes burning holes into me, and I realized for the first time that I didn't care. You know what? I don't care, I said, my voice steady. I don't care that your Christmas was ruined. I didn't care that the guests left early. I didn't care that you were embarrassed at base. You've been using me for years. Every Saturday, Lavra dumps her kids on. Every holiday you expect me to pay, cook, clean, babysit. Never once did you ask what I wanted. Never once did you treat me like an equal. Dad's jaw tightened. We're your family. Family doesn't manipulate each other. I fired back. Family doesn't plot behind each other's backs. Family doesn't laugh about turning one of their own into free child care. For a moment, silence. The air was thick. The only sound, the faint thump of my fridge. Then Mom straightened, wiping her cheeks, her voice like ice. Fine. If that's how you feel, then we don't. We won't invite you to family gatherings anymore. We won't include green holidays. You can be alone. Good, I said without hesitation. Their eyes widened like they'd expected me to crumble to beg. You don't mean that, Lavra whispered. I absolutely mean it. I'm tired of being the family servant. I hate my own life, and I'm finally going to live it. You'll regret this, Mom said, her lip trembling. When you're older and alone, you'll regret pushing your family away. The only thing I regret, I said quietly, is not standing up for myself sooner. Dad pointed toward the door. Let's go. She's made her choice. They marched out, but Mom turned it back one last time, her face a mask of fury and sorrow. Don't come crying toes when you realize what you've lost. I won't, I said, and I meant it. The door shut behind them with a finality that echoed through the apartment. For 10 minutes, I stood there in silence, the red scarf warm against my palm until tension drained from my shoulders. Then I picked up my phone and blocked all their numbers. For the first time, I had drawn the line and I wasn't crossing back. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because families like mine don't give up their scapegoat so easily. The next few days were quiet, almost unnervingly so. My phone stayed stubbornly silent. No calls, no texts. For the first time in years, I woke up on a Saturday morning and didn't hear a knock at my door. Didn't brace myself for 2 kids tumbling in with backpacks and toys. Instead, I slept in. I made pancakes just for myself, sat by the window with coffee, and watched the city dusted in snow. The peace was strange, but it was mine. A few relatives tried to reach me. An aunt calling to say Mom was heartbroken. A cousin urging to apologize. Each time I repeated that same line, when they're ready to admit they used me, we can talk. The silence that followed told me none of them were ready. And that was fine because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I was living my own weekends, my own holidays. I started dating someone new, a man named Daniel I'd met through a mutual friend. We went for late dinners, walked through winter markets, talked about everything and nothing. I wasn't checking my phone, worried my family would dump responsibilities on me at any second. I could finally be present in my own life. Still, there were moments I caught myself staring at that red scarf Theon my grandmother gave me. I'd drape it over my shoulders before stepping out into the cold, and I'd feel her words again. Don't let anyone turn you into their shadow. Maybe it had taken me too long to learn that lesson, but I had learned it. 2 months passed. The distance from my family felt less like a wound and more like a healing scar tender, but proof I'd survived. Then, one evening as I was finishing dinner with Daniel, my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. We need to talk, Mom. I stared at it, my fork suspended in midair. For a moment, old habits tugged at me, the urge to respond, to smooth things over, to fall back into the role I'd always played. But then he glanced at the scarf hanging on the back of my chair, the fabric catching the light, a reminder of the boundary I had finally built. I didn't reply. Not yet, maybe not ever. Because here's the truth. I finally understood family shouldn't mean sacrificing yourself for their convenience. Family should mean respect, until they understood that there was nothing left to say. I shut off my phone, leaned back in my chair, and let quiet fill the room. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of silence. And, as the city lights blinked outside, I knew this story wasn't over. But the next chapter, the tone would be mine to write. If you've ever felt trapped by family expectations or taken for granted, this story is for you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more true stories and stay tuned. The next twist might surprise.